What's up, everybody? Pastor Matt here. Thanks for checking into the YouTube channel. I don't know if you heard this, but Charles Spurgeon has just dropped a new book. Now, that's pretty amazing considering he's been dead since 1892. He is quite prolific for somebody who's been in the grave for more than 100 years. But yeah, nevertheless, I want to tell you about a new book by Charles Spurgeon. It is called the Shilling Series. In fact, it's subtitled as 7 Books in One, published by Ichthus Publications, a local publisher here in Western Pennsylvania that I'm proud to be working with as of late. The Shilling Series is a really cool series. It is actually 7 little books that are under one cover. It's a hardback book, and it's called the Shilling Series because apparently back in 1877 through 1881, a period of about 4 years, Charles Spurgeon would release a little publication that cost a shilling. Now, for those of you who don't know, and I just Googled it, a shilling is 1/20th of a pound. A pound is something like $1, so let's just call a shilling about a nickel. So these are very cheap little paperbacks that you could get back in the late 1800s. And Spurgeon came out with 7 of these, and for the first time that I'm aware of, now some of you can correct me if I'm wrong, this is the first time that all 7 Shilling Series books are published together under one cover. You have been able to get these before online or individually, but to have them all 7 together is a pretty cool thing. So Shilling Series just came out. I just started reading it. One of the things I want to tell you I love about this book is, well, first of all, I love Charles Spurgeon. Many of you do too. Of course, you're friends of this channel. It's the kind of stuff we talk about here on my YouTube channel. But what's great about these is that they're very short pieces. Now, there's times in life where you want to read a big, long book, just a mammoth volume, and there are other times where you want to read short things because you've only got a few minutes. You've got 5 minutes, you've got 10 minutes. You want to sit down for 20 minutes and read something before you go off to your kid's dance recital or something like that. We all have short times in our lives when we want to do shorter bursts of reading, and the Shilling Series is going to be perfect for that because all 7 volumes, or all 7 books in the one volume set now, are comprised of very short pieces. So anyways, listen, if you're new to the channel, what's up? My name is Matt. I'm the pastor of Gospel Fellowship PCA. We're a Reformed Bible-believing church just north of Pittsburgh here in Western Pennsylvania. If you're looking for a church like that, you found one. I will be talking about Ichthus Publications a little bit on this channel because they're doing such good things. We do need some alternatives to Amazon. You can get these books on Amazon if you're into that, but you can also buy them direct from the publisher. So if you're looking for kind of a mom and pop small bookstore type of a feel, Ichthus Publications is going to be the one. And not only that, but they specialize in reprints of Puritan and Reformed stuff with some new books thrown in here and there every once in a while. So you can get J.C. Ryle's Holiness, you can get the Westminster Standards in paperback, you can get Martin Luther's Bondage of the Will. That's the kind of stuff you can find on Ichthus Publications. But today we're talking about this one, the Shilling Series. Let me briefly run down each one of the 7 books in the series that you get all in one hardcover, one volume here. Book 1 is called Christ's Glory, and it is a series of sermons. So to this extent, it's not much different from other collections of Charles Spurgeon. Most of the things that we read from Spurgeon are probably his sermons. And this one starts off with a great little volume, a little Shilling Series of short sermons on Christ's glory. So there's a couple in there about Christ the conqueror of Satan, Christ the destroyer of death, Christ the seeker of the lost. And so volume 1 is going to be a lot of what you've come to expect and what you've honestly come to love from Charles Spurgeon. The second volume is another volume of sermons. So you're probably saying, I think I see a pattern here. Yes, there are plenty of sermons in the Shilling Series, but there's some other interesting stuff as well. Volume 2 is called 7 Wonders of Grace, and in these 7 sermons, Charles Spurgeon talks about the conversion stories of people in Scripture that you would never expect to become Christians. We're talking about the conversion of Manasseh in the Old Testament, the sinful woman in the Gospels, the thief on the cross towards the end of the Lord's life as he's about to be crucified. So book 2, these wonderful stories of converting grace. Book 3 is one of the more interesting of the books in the Shilling Series. It's called A Spare Half an Hour. Now that title isn't necessarily very exciting, But there's some really cool stuff in Volume 3. I've already read a couple of these, and a lot of these are personal stories and anecdotes from Spurgeon where he gets really honest about his own childhood. There's a really interesting story about his grandfather. There's a story about his very early sensing of his calling to ministry. So these are some of the personal stories that Spurgeon tells about his own life that you wouldn't necessarily find in his sermon series. So that's pretty cool. In Volume 4, we're back to sermons again. This time, The Mourner's Comfort is the name of the series. And it's 7 sermons on Isaiah 61. So each one of these little sets has a particular theme. And here, Spurgeon's working through that great passage in Isaiah 61 where he talks about all of these various comforts for the believer in Christ. Volume 5 is another interesting one. It's called The Bible in the Newspaper. I thought that this was going to be the one that was the least interesting to me because I'm thinking, I don't know if I care what London newspapers had to say back in the late 19th century. But actually, again, this is pretty cool. First, because they're very, very short. Some of these are only 1 or 2 pages, 3 pages, maybe 5 pages. But Spurgeon takes a current event from his day and he essentially gospelizes it and tells the gospel using something that just happened. So let me give you a couple examples. In one, he talks about a circus that just recently came to town, and Spurgeon uses it as an analogy for churches that try to entertain instead of preaching the gospel. That's something that is certainly relevant today, isn't it? In another short Bible in the Newspaper, he talks about the sinking of a couple of ships, which had just recently happened off port. And again, he makes comparisons to the spiritual life and to the church as it goes wayward. So Spurgeon takes these interesting nuggets from London history in the newspapers and he turns them into these sort of sermon illustrations that bring out the gospel in very lively ways. In Volume 6, this is a unique one amongst the Shilling series. Spurgeon does a series on eccentric preachers, and what he does is he basically does a little bit of church history where he takes a number of lesser known preachers and he tells their story, their conversion, their sufferings, perhaps even their martyrdom. He includes Latimer, Hill, Taylor, and several others. I think there's maybe a dozen or so. So these are quite short little snippets that the reader will find themselves encouraged by these biographies of men who stood for the faith. And then finally in Volume 7, we're back to another series of sermons. This time it's called Be of Good Cheer. And readers of the old King James Version will recognize that phrase because that's something that Jesus often said to people as he encountered them. Today it's often translated as take heart or be of courage or something like that. But again, Spurgeon looks at these several encounters in which Jesus sees somebody, perhaps a blind man lying on the road or the woman who's bleeding, and he tells that person to be of good cheer or to take heart. And in that way, these sermons are kind of stitched together by theme. So altogether, the Shilling series is pretty cool stuff for a couple of reasons. First, I don't know that they've ever been printed, if recently, perhaps at all, in one volume like this before. Lesser known of Spurgeon's works and a lot of great anecdotal stuff, short pieces from his life that I think you will richly enjoy. Okay, so as per the usual, I'll post a link in the description of this video. I will send you over to Amazon if you're into that, but for those of you who are trying to avoid Amazon lately for whatever reason, ideological or by conviction, whatever, I will also link you to Ichthus Publications' website where you can get this and all kinds of other old print, Puritan and Reformed reprints. All right, thank you so much for checking into this video. Do love you lots, and we'll talk to you later.